Now we have the section first of it. So section 1 is about the molecular biology and your recombinant DNA technologies. In this, the first pointer that comes is isolation and the purification of the nucleic acid. So during your, or for the isolation and the purification of the nucleic acid, we have the genomic DNA isolation. It applies to bacteria, plants and animals. And over here, if I talk about the steps in the entire part, it starts with the cell lysis, in which we have the bacteria, animal cell, plant cell, fungal cell. The bacterias, in the bacterias we have the lysosomal digestion. The lysosome are going to digest your peptidoglycans. In the animal cells, SDS, Triton, it disrupts the membrane lipids. Then we have the plant cell, in which you have CTAB method. Mechanical grinding in the liquid nitrogen is done, and for the fungal cell, zymolyase or chitinase is taken into consideration, right? Then you have the protein denaturation. So in the protein denaturation, we have SDS unfolding the protein, sodium dodecyl sulfate that is therein, right? Then EDTA is going to chelate the magnesium 2 plus, that is going to inactivate the DNAs that we have. Then we have high salt that precipitates the protein and the polysaccharides. Then phenol chloroform extraction. So for phenol, what is the functionality of phenol? So it helps to denature the protein that keeps the DNA in an aqueous solution or in the aqueous phase that we have. Then chloroform, it sharpens the phase separation. Then we have isoamyl chloroalcohol that reduces the foaming, right? Then we have important pointer. So the DNA, when the separation is being done or when the isolation of the segment is being done, so in this portion, the DNA remains in the upper aqueous phase, right? Where does the DNA remains? The DNA remains in the upper aqueous phase. Protein go to the organic phase and debris go into the interface that we have, right? So remember about this, in the different phases you have different components getting separated. Then you have DNA precipitation. So ethanol or isopropanol is used in, DNA gets visible as threads. Then the salt is going to neutralize the charge, that helps in the precipitation part. Then washing and rehydration, 70% ethanol, it removes the salt. Then TE buffer, which includes the tris and EDTA, they stabilize the DNA portion that we have, right? Then we have the plant genomic DNA. When the plant genomic DNA need to be like separated off. So the plant tissue contains what? It contains polyphenols, it contains polysaccharides, and it contains the pigments that are there, right? Now in this we have the CTAB method that is taken into consideration. So CTAB binds to your polysaccharides, which prevents the contamination. And beta mercaptoethanol reduces what? It reduces your phenolic oxidation. See, everything that is written down is a potential question, so make sure you're not skipping off any part of it, right? All these pointers are made in such a way so that it becomes easier for you to quickly revise in, quickly understand the segment and go through the segments accordingly, right? Then we have the plasmid DNA isolation. So in this we have the alkaline lysis principle. So NaOH plus SDS causes the denaturing of your double-stranded DNA. DS is double-stranded DNA. Plasmid is going to renature very, very quickly. Genomic DNA is very large. It aggregates and then it is going to precipitate out. What are the various steps in my plasmid DNA isolation? So first is the resuspension with the help of tris and EDTA. Then lysis is there with the help of NaOH and SDS. Neutralization is there, in which the potassium acetate precipitates the SDS, protein plus gDNA. Centrifugation is the next step, which clears the plasmids supernatant, and then the purification is there, in which ethanol precipitation or spin columns are there, right? So the precipitation is the last part. So modern spin column kits, so over here the silica membranes are the ones that binds to the DNA in the high salt conditions, and whatever is remaining, it gets eluted with the help of your low salt buffer. Okay, so this is your segment of how does the plasmid DNA isolation is done. Then we have the RNA isolation. So for the RNA isolation, why is it that you have your RNA being very much unstable? So the RNA is unstable because you have 2-OH on the ribosome, which causes spontaneous hydrolysis, right? And then RNAs are very stable and ubiquitous in nature, right? Then trizol method for the same. What all things are there in the trizol? So you have phenol, you have gonidium thiocyanate, and the acidic solution. Three different things are there in the trizol. You have phenol being there, you have gonidium thiocyanate, and the acidic solution. Now in this, what happens? You have your RNA partitioning into the aqueous phase, right? DNA interphase, protein organic phase. Then precipitation is with the help of your isopropanol, and glycogen can aid the precipitation into the small RNAs as well. Then DNA's treatment, so it removes the genomic DNA contamination, and these are the purity values that we talk about. After this, we have the protein isolation. So till here, it was your DNA or the nucleic acid isolation. Now we have the next segment of your protein isolation. So we have protein isolation and the purification as the second pointer. So in this, we have the protein sources. So cell-free extracts are required, tissue homogenization and recombinant expression, right? Now, what are the various stabilizing conditions that we have? So low temperature, protease inhibitors, reducing agents, and it maintains the maintenance of the pH. So what are the various purification methods that are used in? So you have salting out, you have dialysis, you have other segments as well, but over here I've written down just two. So major of the two are your salting out and your dialysis. Salting out, in this you have ammonium sulfate, which is very highly soluble, salting in at low concentration and salting out at high concentration. Then it is used before your chromatography. Dialysis is to remove the salts through a semi-permeable membrane, and it depends upon the molecular weight, right? Then we have the next segment of chromatography, right? So in this in the chromatography, you have ion exchange, then you have gel filtration, then you have affinity chromatography. Three of the major ones are there. So first is your ion exchange chromatography. In this, principle is that opposite charges attract each other, and it is eluted by increasing the salt gradient. What is the application over here? So it purifies your charged proteins, and change in the pH can affect the entire protein charge altogether. Then gel filtration, which is size exclusion chromatography. So in this, the principle is that large molecules, they cannot enter the pores, so they elute faster as compared to the small molecules that enter the pores, which is a longer path, and they elute later. Then what are the common matrix being used? These are the common matrix being used. And what's the application of your size exclusion chromatography? So it is desalting, and for your molecular weight estimation. Last is the affinity chromatography. The principle is that there is specific binding occurring between the enzyme and the substrate. Then you have the antigen and antibodies binding in together. Elution is with the help of your competitive ligands. It is with the help of your pH salt gradients and imidazole gradients as well. What is the advantage? So affinity chromatography has the highest specificity, and there occurs rapid purification as well, right? Then we have electrophoresis. In the electrophoresis, you have DNA, RNA, and the proteins being there. So DNA and RNA gel electrophoresis, in this the agarose gel concentrations, these are the concentrations taken up. Visualization is ethidium bromide, SYBR green, and safe dyes. Then what's the migration formula? So migration formula is directly proportional to log 1 upon the size. Then you have the protein electrophoresis. So in this SDS page mechanism is that SDS gives us uniform negative charge. Then you have the beta more capte ethanol. It breaks the disulfide bonds, and then migration reflects your polypeptide length being there, right? Then stacking versus the resolving gels. Stacking concentration sample and resolving has the pH of almost 8.8, in which we have the separation proteins being there, right? Then you have electrofocusing, isoelectric focusing. So the principle is that the protein migrate in the pH gradient until your Pi is obtained in, right? And what it is used in, it is used in the 2D gel and it in your post-transcriptional, post-translational modification detection, right? Then 2D gel electrophoresis. So first dimension, second dimension, and then the application for the same. So application is proteomics, identifying the modifications and spotting the comparison between the disease and the normal samples. Then we have the molecular cloning as the next part. In the molecular cloning, first thing is what are the various restriction enzymes that we have. So there are three types: type 1, type 2, type 3. Type 1, in this there is random cleavage. Type 2, there is specific palindromes, and type 3 is downstream cleavage. Then you have sticky versus the blunt ends. So sticky ends, these are the main restriction enzymes in the example, and in the blunt end you have the main examples as SMA1. Then you have isoschizomers and neoschizomers. So isoschizomers, same site, and neoschizomers are the one that cuts at the same site but different cut patterns are there, right? So check over here, you have type 1, type 2, type 3, and sometimes type 4 as well, weakly specific. So nuclease structure is multimer, heterotrimeric. Type 2 homodimer, type 3 homodimer again. Recognition size pattern. So the recognition site pattern is that the two sites in any of the orientation. Small, type 2 is smaller, which is 4 to 8 base pairs only, and it is usually palindromic. Type 3 is two sites in head-to-head orientation and non-palindromic. Type 4 is weakly specific. Then cleavage sites, these are the cleavage sites. And what are the cofactors? This has been asked in the examination. So magnesium 2 plus is the common one. Type 2 is most commonly used because there is no ATP utilized or no ATP required in its functionality. And 1 and 3 requires ATP, and 1 and 3 also requires SAM also as a cofactor. Then you have the ligation mechanism. So T4 DNA ligase, it inserts the phosphodiester bond, ATP is required, and the optimum temperature is approximately 16 degrees Celsius. What are the transformation techniques? So the chemical used is CaCl2. Heat shock increases the membrane permeability. Electroporation, high voltage pulse forms the transient pores, and it is very high in efficiency. Phage mediated transduction. So lambda phage is used for large insert cloning being there. Then we have selection and screening. So first is your blue white screening. So in this, LAGZ genes get disrupted by insert, which makes up the white colonies, and blue colonies means that there are no inserts being there. Very important. Okay, all the pointers that you're studying over here are very, very important. Then you have antibiotic selection. So you have ampicillin, kanamycin, and chloramphenicol used for the antibiotic selection. And then the colony PCR, so quick screening of the inserts are here for the same that we have. Then we have the recombinant protein expression systems. Okay, now we have the recombinant protein expression system, right, which is the section B of the same. So we have the expression of the recombinant protein in the bacteria. Now the bacteria are most likely or most widely used in fast growth, cheap media, easy transformation, and your high protein yield, right? The promoter being used is T7 promoter, which is the most powerful one. Then we have LAC, TRIP, and TRC promoters, which are inducible with the help of IPTG. Then you have arabinose being tightly regulated. Ribosome binding site is the Sheen-Delgado sequence, that is in the upstream. Selectable marker over here is the ampicillin and kanamycin. And origin of replication is high copy origin, more gives more plasmid, as a result more protein, right? What are the fusion tags? These are the fusion tags used. Then we have the protease cleaving sites, TEV proteases, thrombin. Induction of the protein expression is with the help of IPTG, which is an analog of lactose, which does not get metabolized. Then we have, it binds to the LAC-I repressor. It frees your T7 promoter. Expression starts immediately. Then we have illusion bodies. So at high expression, the proteins are misfolded and they aggregate into illusion bodies that we have. Then solution is lower temperature, co-expression with chaperones, and refolding protocols with the urea, right? Their expression in the eukaryotic segment, yeast expression is, advantages are that it helps out in post-translational modification and easy genetic manipulations. And promoters over here are AOX1, which is methanol inducible, and GAL1, which is galactose inducible, right? Then we have the bacillovirus insert cell system. So over here, it is used for your correct folding and glycosylation, and also for the large protein complexes. What are the key concepts over here? The main key concepts are the vector gets or it infects the insect cells, very high protein yield, and it is majorly used for the vaccines. Then mammalian expression system. So vectors over here that are used is CMV promoters and EF1 alpha promoter. What are the transfection methods? So lipofection, electroporation, viral transduction, in which we have examples of lentivirus, adenovirus, etc. What is it used for? It is majorly used for your antibodies, human proteins, and your functional assays. Then we have the plant expression system. So various different plant expression systems are there. And then we have the gene libraries as section C. So in the genomic library, what is the definition of what is the genomic library all about? So the complete collection of the DNA fragments that represents the entire genome. What are the construction steps that we have? First, there occurs partial digestion with restriction enzyme. Then we have size fractionation. Then we have ligation into a vector. Then we have packaging into the phage particle. Then we have infection or transformation into the host cells. What are the features? So it contains coding plus the non-coding DNAs. Then we have, it induces a promoter, intron, and the enhancer. Large inserts means high representation, right? These are the various vectors that are used in. Then we have the cDNA, the complementary DNA library. So what is a complementary DNA library? So library that is made from the mRNA that represents expressed genes only, right? Then you have the construction steps. So purification of mRNA, poly-A tail is used, the poly-A tail captured using your oligo DT beads. Then we have reverse transcription. So reverse transcriptase synthesizes the complementary DNA using the mRNA template. Then you have second strand synthesis is with the help of RNase H and poly-A, DNA polymerase A. Then there is addition of vectors, adapters and linkers, and then we have the cloning into the vector. What's the advantage? So no introns. It represents actively expressed genes and easy protein expression, right? Then you have the DNA sequencing and genomic strategies. So first is your Sanger sequencing. Then you have next generation sequencing. This has been asked in the examination. Recently, there was a question based upon the next generation sequencing. Then nano core sequencing is there, and then you have genome sequencing strategies as well. So the nano, the DNA that passes through nanopore, there's a change in the ionic current identities. Then you have, there are very long reads and you have high error rate. Then in the other two segments also you can go through. In the genomic sequencing strategies, that is GSS, first one is the shotgun sequencing, and then we have clone by clone. So shotgun sequencing is that there is random fragmentation, no prior mapping, and it requires the assembly. Clone by clone is genome mapped into the BAC first. BAC is sequenced individually and it is used in the Human Genome Project. Then we have the next segment of mutagenesis and knockout techniques. So in this we have the in vitro mutagenesis being there. So first is site directed. Then you have deletion mutagenesis. Then we have second segment of the knockout technology. So in the knockout techniques, you have bacterial knockout, you have yeast knockout, mouse knockout, CRISPR-Cas knockout being therein. So all of these have specific roles, specific features, specific applications where different like these different knockouts are applied in, right? Then you have the gene expression analysis. So the if it is at the RNA level, it is RT-PCR, qPCR, Northern blot. At the protein level, it is Western blot, ELISA types, and then you have the protein microarrays. Then we have the various molecular markers. So three different molecular markers are there: RFLP, RAPD, and AFLP, right? RFLP, in this you have restriction digestion plus the Southern blot. These are codominant, highly reliable, and it is used for the mapping part. Then you have the RAPD. In this we have the single random primer, dominant markers, and low reproducibility. AFLP, restriction digestion plus adapter ligation plus selective PCR. These are highly reproducible. They produce many bands and they're majorly used in your plant genetics portion, right? Then we have the immunotechniques being there, which is first one is the antibody generation. Then you have immunoprecipitation. Then we have flow cytometry. Then you have immunofluorescence microscopy, RIA, that is radio immunoassay, right? Then we have in situ, like after this we have the next segment of that how does the in situ and ex situ localization is done, in which we have GISH, FISH, and all these segments. Then we have the biophysical methods being there. See, you might find it a bit theoretical, but trust me, this entire presentation is very, very important for your theoretical questions and also for your experimental questions, because all these things are very important. You can easily get part B, part C, both segment type of questions. Match the following is also available. Then statement wise questions, analytical questions if you're comfortable in them. So make sure that you are learning and revising all these things effectively, right? Then you have, see, various different biophysical methods involve your UV visible spectrophotometry, fluorescence spectrophotometry, circular dichromism, which is majorly used for your 2D gel electrophoresis, right? Then you have, sorry, your circular dichromism is majorly used for analyzing your secondary structure of protein, majorly for the secondary structure of protein it is there. Then you have nuclear magnetic resonance, it is majorly for your tertiary structure of protein, third degree. So when we look into the protein folding, so primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. For secondary you have circular dichromism, For tertiary, you have NMR being therein. Then we also have electron spin resonance. You have mass spectrometry. Then you have surface plasmon resonance being there, light scattering being there. Then we have different type of microscopy, very important. In the recent papers, we have got questions from the microscopy portion as well, maybe in the format of your segment of how does the what do we call magnification occurs, or how does the various steps, like we have a specific formula for finding out the numerical aperture, right? So from that segment also we have got a question. From resolution segment also you might end up getting a question. So remember about all of these things. So light microscopy is important. Then you have confocal microscopy. Then you have uh, fluorescence microscopy, super resolution microscopy being there. Then we have electron microscopy. I'll be sharing up this particular PDF with you all, so you can go through the theoretical portion. I'm just giving you a heads up for the entire part, right? Then you have freeze etch and freeze fracture technique, in which we have the principle being the samples are frozen very rapidly, then they are fractured, then they are shadowed with heavy metal, and then they are viewed in the electron microscope, right? What's the application for the same? So it is majorly for your membrane protein distribution and for your lipid raft visualization, right? Next is the radio labeling techniques, very, very important. These techniques are majorly used in a different like various techniques. We use these radio labeled techniques so that whatever changed molecule is there, or whatever changed molecule gets formed in, all those can be labeled and analyzed effectively, right? So we have types of types of your radio isotopes, so which includes your beta emitters, gamma emitters, low energy isotopes. How do we detect them? So there are various ways via which the detection can be done. And then we have the application. So application is DNA labeling, protein labeling, tracer experiment, imaging being there, the all of these being the main applications. Then you have electrophysiological methods. First one is the patch clamp technique. Then you have electroencephalogram. Then you have electrocardiogram, and last is the brain imaging that is therein. So you have their configurations, measures, in which particular segment do you like apply them. So make sure that you remember about all of these things very effectively. Then you have the ways in which the estimation of the population density can be done. So you have a process called as estimating the entire population density, which includes the quadrant method, line transient, then mark capture, recapture technique. So this is something that is majorly used to analyze the population of fishes in the pond. Then ranging patterns, then you have habitat characterization, then you have sampling of the various behaviors, which includes your scanning, sampling, continuous recording, focal sampling, etc. Last is the biostats, which includes the various ways in which we can measure the or analyze the data and everything, right? So measure of the central tendencies is with the help of median, mode, mean, median, and mode. The measures of dispersion includes variance, standard deviation, standard error, coefficient of variation, etc. Right? Probability is with in the probability distribution, you learn about normal distribution, binomial, and Poisson distribution or Poisson distribution, whatever you want to pronounce it. So in the case of your normal, it is symmetrical. Then you have mean, median, mode being same in all. Binomial distribution is success or failure. Poisson distribution is rare event. Then hypothesis testing. So t-test, difference between the measures. Types, one sample, paired, unpaired. ANOVA is difference among two different groups. Then you have chi-square, which is categorical data, and goodness of fit is calculated, last, correlation and regression. So for this you have 3 different segments, and errors and significance, type 1, type 2, and the value of p being when it is going to be significant, when it is going to be less error, more error, false positive, false negative, all these segments, right? So these are your various biostats mechanisms that can be therein, right? So did you understand all these things, everyone? Yes or no? Are you understanding all these things, everyone? I've tried to give you a quick like go through or a walkthrough in the entire unit 13. You have to make sure that you are revising all these things effectively, because it's very, very important. And you have all the techniques, their applications. Then we tried to revise all the techniques and their application in a bit detail as well, right? So if you have any doubt, any problem, you can ask in. Otherwise, this was the entire part of your methods in biology portion. Now we are